Part 2 of the purple section is what we will now be doing, as we are going to be doing more than just overtaking now. We are actually going to be racing. So previously we learned how to overtake, and in this episode we are now learning how to race. So let's get on with that as we begin with what I believe is a race with 5 other opponents, which I'd assume is why the 5 is there. I don't know, anyway. So, 1 minute 48 is what we need for a gold, and 3 minutes 20 is what we need for a silver. There are no minimum time requirements, so let's get on with this. Racing with a tuned front-wheel drive, front-engined car. In other words, with a tuned FF car, which is front-engined, front-wheel drive car. Anyway, onwards to Vicky.
Welcome to Lesson 30. For this lesson, we'll move to the Fuji International Speedway and try a race. The basics are the same as on the Tsukuba circuit, except this time with more laps. You now have 5 laps to pass a rival car that's 10 seconds ahead of you at the start. The Fuji International Speedway is one of the few high-speed circuits in Japan. The overall speeds you'll be encountering are much higher, so don't get nervous if you don't seem to be catching up. Just keep your head and plan an attack. You will of course need to be considering the best passing points while you're racing. The passing points are the entrance to corner 1, the following complex corner called A, the hairpin, and corner B, which you encountered in an earlier lesson. On the final straight, you may have the opportunity of overtaking using your opponent's slipstream. In order to pass this lesson, you must overtake your opponent and retain your lead for 10 seconds. Best of luck with the lesson.
So basically this lesson is the same as the one we did before, except for saying this time around we are doing 5 laps around the same course and not just doing 3 laps around Tsukuba. Anyway, let's go. As we are now driving a tuned Celica for this lesson. As you start this lesson, your opponent's car is 10 seconds ahead of you on the Fuji Speedway. You must overtake within 5 laps. Consider your timing of when to use his slipstream on this high-speed circuit. So those are our time requirements. Let's get going. As I am driving what I think is called the TrialCelica, if I'm not mistaken, which is basically one of Toyota's tuning houses. And up the inside. Now I just need to hold on to the lead for another 5 seconds, and then we are there. We should have the silver. But I need to do a bit better if I'm going to get the gold. So I need to be at least 45 seconds quicker if I'm actually going to get the gold, so yeah. Let's try this again and make sure that we do better. Because I need to make sure I do that. And now I know what happens when I have understeer on a corner exit. Okay, that's a little bit more like it. But let's just try and see if we can catch up to our opponent as I very nearly go off onto the grass. And I'm now just under 3 seconds behind my opponent. Can I catch up to him in time though? We will wait and see. but I am closing in, so maybe. He's got a little bit more wheel spin than what I had on the corner exit. I am in the slipstream now. I am closing in at a rate of knots, and up the inside he does not throw the block. Had to dab the brakes a little bit there, but we have done this one beautifully. And with a time of virtually 10 seconds to spare from my goal time. And in all honesty, I did that one beautifully. With a time of 1 minute 38.1, I have got my first gold of part 2 in the purple section. So, 1 test down, and I think it's 7 tests to go, is it? For this part? It could be 8. But either way, doesn't matter because we have got the TrialCelicaSS in our garage now. And now we move on to lesson 31. Race with a tuned rear-wheel drive front-engined car. In other words, this car is an FR. So 3 minutes is the gold time and 4:20 is the silver. Let's see just what we need to do here.
Welcome to lesson 31. You've raced on the circuits, so now let's try racing in the city on the New York street course. You'll have 3 laps to overtake the rival car, which will start with a 10-second lead. This is a very different challenge to the open circuit, and with the guardrails and barriers you have limited room. Try to take the ideal racing line and put pressure on your opponent. A number of the straights are connected by 90-degree corners, so you'll have to beat your opponent by braking more efficiently at the end of one of the straights. Many people tend to avoid braking and enter the corner at too high a speed, only to collide into the barrier on the exit. Therefore, keep a cool head. Remember, the best braking points for each corner and the best spots for passing will soon become evident. If you attempt to overtake wildly, you're bound to collide with your opponent, so be sure to look for the correct exit point. After overtaking your opponent, you must maintain your lead for 10 seconds in order to pass this lesson. Good luck!
So here we go, racing the Spoon S2000 here in the streets of Manhattan, New York. As you start this lesson, your opponent's car is 10 seconds ahead of you on the New York street course. You must overtake within 3 laps, beat your opponent with efficient, high-speed braking. I think my opponent is going to be another Spoon S2000. I could be wrong about that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's another Spoon S2000 that's ahead of me. But either way, here we go. I probably wouldn't be able to replicate the way I got those wins either. And it's not quite the gold this time. I'm going to be close, but I'm not close enough. Unfortunately. I'm off by at least 4 seconds. Yeah. Okay. Okay, 4 seconds off in my first run. Let's try this again. We shall try this again. I might need some water before continuing with this once I'm done with this lesson. So I actually put together a pretty good run last time, but it wasn't quite enough for me to get the gold. I'd say I was probably at least 2 seconds off on my first run, in terms of me trying to go for the gold. I had to be at least 2 seconds off my opponent. But altogether, I still put together a pretty sizable first attempt effort. I'm not exactly dominating as much as I was in the early portion of the game, but either way, I don't think that really matters, because I'm still coming away with expected results, and this is more or less a challenge for me now, which is more or less what I was expecting up to this point in the game. But anyway, okay, so I'm just 5 seconds back now. Can I catch him in time? I certainly hope so. And I just grazed the wall a little bit there, but able to at least keep the pace. I think I am faster than I was before. I'm only 1.6 seconds back now from the leader. So it's probably going to be either the backstretch or the right-handers where, well, it's either going to be on the backstretch or in the right-hander where I get the move done. And it looks like it's going to happen on the backstretch. And there we go, easy peasy, no DC. As I got the gold with 26 seconds to spare. So, from what I can see right now, this is going pretty well. But we are not done yet. We still have a few more lessons to go. I don't think I've saved a replay yet. And no, I haven't. No, I'll leave it for a little bit longer. I don't exactly need to save a replay yet. I might save it in the next one. But anyway, Spoon S2000 race car is now ours. Yeah, woo! We've got nearly all of the Spoon S2000s now, I think. Unless that's the only one. Anyway. Moving on. Racing Practice 4. Overtake 3 rival cars on the Tsukuba circuit. So, if we finish first, we get the gold. If we finish second, we get the silver. And if we finish third, well, it's pretty self-explanatory, really. For finishing third, we get the bronze. Without any further ados, let's go. Let's go and hand this over to Vicky.
Welcome to lesson 32. The rules of the race will change starting with this lesson. The location is once again Tsukuba Circuit. There will be 3 cars ahead of you. See how many you can pass in one lap, with one very strict condition. You are not allowed to make contact. Sounds difficult? Just remember all you've learned in the lesson so far and keep calm. You need to have definite plans in mind for overtaking the opponent cars. For example, which car on which bend, as potential overtaking points are limited. If you fail to overtake, you'll be hard-pressed to recover your time. Once you make the decision to overtake, you must be confident in your approach. At the same time, you need to avoid any contact with your opponents, so as you overtake, watch their movements closely. When you're going for the inside before a bend, it's important to position yourself alongside your opponent whilst braking. If you move to the inside just before the clipping point, before letting your opponent know you're there, you will make contact and be disqualified instantly. First place will give you a gold trophy, second place silver, and third place will result in a bronze. Don't worry, while this seems difficult at first, you'll soon make good progress. Best of luck.
I am pretty sure my progress will already be good because I have at least 18 years of racing experience behind me. So, it's fair to say that I more or less know what it is I'm doing. Anyway, might as well show it up to the end. This is more or less a photo finish. Well, almost a photo finish, but anyway. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what it is you need to do here. But anyway, here we go. Starting in 4th place on the Tsukuba circuit, try to overtake all of the 3 opponent cars before the end of the lap. Collision with other cars means instant disqualification, so drive carefully. So as I said before, if we win, we get the gold, if we finish second, we get the silver, and if we finish third, we get the bronze. Pretty self-explanatory if you have been a racing fan as well as a sim racer for as long as I have. It's not too difficult to understand once you really get yourself into racing, or at least as a racing fan. If you're not really interested in racing games. But either way, I think you'll more or less understand this as we go further and further along. Well, only 2/10 off. I'm pretty sure I can get him next time around. That's not going to be too hard for me to make up. Okay, trying again. I didn't quite have the slipstream in order to get the move done, so whilst I didn't win, I still managed to pass. And that to me is pretty self-explanatory when you think about it. I'm on the outside of the Nissan Micra, but that also gives me room to move to the inside for the next corner. And yep, I knew that was going to happen. Oh well, let's try again. Okay, so rule number 1 is don't collide with other cars. And rule number 2 is don't run off the track. Whatever you do, do not run off the track. You are basically asking for yourself to die if you go off track. In other words, your run will basically die if you go off track. And that's basically what happened with me. Anyway, I am closing in on the Honda Jazz. I'm now just 1.5 seconds behind him. I'm closing in at a vast rate of knots. I should be able to get in this time around as long as I don't over-rev on the gear shifts. I have got a run going. I am closing in on the Honda Jazz. Just depends on knowing if I can get close enough without touching him. I'm up the inside, and now I've got him. I've got him quite simply. And by 6.5 tenths, no less. Which also helps. So, I went about a second faster than I did before, and as a result, I have got the gold. So there we go. P1 baby, in the Toyota Yaris, or Toyota Vitz as it's called in America. But anyway, we now have the Toyota Yaris. Unfortunately, it's not the pink Yaris. Even though I sometimes wish it was, because then I would be able to reference the pink Vitz guy. Believe it or not, I did actually have the pink Vitz as being one of my thumbnails in a Gran Turismo 3 episode. Anyway, moving on. Racing Practice 5. Overtake 3 rival cars on the Fuji International Speedway. And where this time we are driving a Nissan Xanavi Nismo GTR. So, same structure as before. Should be very easy to understand. We need to finish first in order to get the gold, second silver, and third bronze, blah blah blah. Okay, let's move on before I go off into an uncontrollable rant.
Welcome to Lesson 33. The rules for this lesson are the same as for Lesson 32. This time you're on the Fuji International Speedway again with 3 cars ahead. See how far you can work your way up in 1 lap. The same tough rule applies this time round. If you make contact, you're out. You'll be driving a racing machine rather than a training car, so the average speed is overwhelmingly faster. This is a high-speed circuit, so take full advantage of it. Be warned that there are more complex corners here than on the Tsukuba circuit. Let the other driver know you're there before you slip into the inside on a pass. If you make contact or another car makes contact with you, you'll be disqualified. Pass all 3 cars for the gold, 2 for the silver and 1 for the bronze. Give it your all right up to the checkered flag. Now, best of luck with the lesson.
This is probably going to take a few tries for me to get used to, because we are now effectively driving a GT500 race car compared to the high acceleration road cars we were driving before up to this point. So this is going to be interesting, but I am convinced in saying it can be done. Starting in 4th place on the Fuji circuit, try to overtake all of the 3 opponent cars before the end of the lap. Once again, contact with the cars means instant failure, so try to preempt their movements while racing. Well, we know what we have to do. We just have to get past them without touching them. And I do more or less have an understanding of what it is we need to do here. Yeah. Okay, let's try again. Trying again with Racing Practice 5. Okay, I need to concentrate here if I'm going to pull this off. I need to actually concentrate on getting the run. I need to get... Okay. I'm 4 seconds off. But I might be able to close in on that. If I can just keep my foot in the throttle long enough, and I can stay on track long enough, I might be able to get him. A little bit wide there, but then again I hadn't quite cleared the NSX. But now that I have cleared him, all I need to do now is catch up to the Toyota ahead of me. So as long as I can stay on track this time, I should be able to get the run. It's taken me a few tries to get to this point, but as long as I don't hit him, we should be fine. I've got the slipstream this time, and we have made it. We have made it and made it stick by less than 0.4 of a second. So there we go. 1 minute 24.2 is what I finished that run with. And you know what? I'm gonna get a replay now, because I can. Also, because I want to. Alrighty. That's our replay saved. And now we just have 3 more tests to go in this part of the purple section, as we now have the JGTC Nissan Xanavi Nismo GTR. Alrighty, 3 tests to go in this section, and then we will be done, aside from the coffee break, but I will get on with that next. Yeah, I just had to check something. Okay, let's go. On to Racing Practice 6. Overtake 3 rival cars on the New York course. Here we go.
Welcome to lesson 34. You've now successfully overtaken 3 cars on both the Tsukuba and Fuji International circuits. Now, for the last stage, let's try it on the streets of New York City. Again, you have only 1 lap, and making contact with your opponent's car is out of the question. If you remember, you practiced overtaking on this course in lesson 31. Well, now there are 3 rivals instead of 1, but the basic rules are the same as ever. Keep cool and try your best. This time, since you're in a race car rather than a training car, you'll notice the significantly improved braking performance. As a result, on the corners you can wait a bit longer before you start braking. Check where the new braking points are for each of the corners. The maximum speed on the straights is determined by your exit speed from the previous corner. While cornering, it's tempting to concentrate on the braking, but your speed on the straight will make the difference between victory and failure. So make sure you achieve a high exit speed. This is the perfect time to make use of the line that emphasizes your exit speed, as you've practiced several times before. As with your previous race, you'll be judged based on your ranking. First place takes a gold trophy, second place a silver, and third place a bronze. Good luck with the lesson.
As ever, Vicky, I appreciate your motivation. So here we go. So it's another 1 lap magic, where we basically have to overtake 3 cars in 1 lap. We're basically chasing the rabbit here, as we have done so often in this episode. And our main opponent is a Toyota MR2. Let's try and see if we can beat him. Or, in this case, a Toyota Super Autobacks MRS. And what do you know, the demonstration gets it done photo finish style. Anyway, here we go. Starting in 4th place on the New York course, try to overtake all of the 3 opponent cars before the end of the lap. Pay close attention to the correct braking points, as you will be instantly disqualified upon collision with any of the other cars. This also refers to the barriers and/or walls that are surrounded. Anyway, here we go. I've done this before, I have no doubts in saying I can do it again. So, we will go out and make sure that we are successful. And I hit the wall. Luckily, however, I don't fail. I can definitely say that was a lucky break. That was a pretty lucky break right there at the end. At a time where I honestly thought to God I was going to fail, but I somehow didn't. Okay, let's try again. Trying again on the streets of New York. In my Subaru Advan Cusco Impreza. I aim to try again and be 8/10ths faster. Well, more specifically, a second faster than I was before. I'm actually struggling with this at the moment. Which, from what I know at least, isn't exactly a good thing. But I am trying to hold myself out with this as long as I can. Until I eventually do decide to call it a day. But anyway, I seem to be doing better on this run than what I was doing before. So let's see how much closer I am. Oh, 3.7 seconds behind now. I think I should be able to get him this time around, as long as I don't make too many mistakes between now and the finish. Oh, I think I ran wide there. Can I get the run? Can I get the run? I have most definitely got the run. Can I get him on the straight? Get him on the straight. Come on, come on. Yes! There we go. Ironically, in copycat style to what the demonstration did, I just beat the Toyota MRS right at the line. Literally in photo finish style. I just got him. And in all honesty, I'm pretty content with that. I'd say we did something good there. Wonder if I have a replay in New York yet. Let's see. Well, I do, but I might leave it for the next one. When I save a replay in New York. I could do that. I don't know. I'm thinking about this. I'm working this out as I go along. But anyway. There we go. So that is now our 6th practice test done and dusted. And now we are going to move on to faster race cars once again, as we now have a 10-lap endurance event at Fuji Speedway, and where the car we will be driving is a racing legend in and of itself. Racing Practice 7. Get to the pole position using the BMW McLaren F1 GTR. So this time we have a total of 6 opponents in this race, compared of course to the 4 opponents, including the player, in the previous races. And I think since I still have time, I might as well just get this one out of the way, so I think I'll end off today by doing this, and then I'll do the next one. Then I'll do the next 2 tomorrow. Okay, here we go. 10 laps at Fuji Speedway.
Welcome to lesson 35. Now that you've reached the last in a series of hands-on race lessons, let's see what you can do in a full-on race. The race will take place at the Fuji International Speedway. You'll start in last place as the 6th car with 10 laps remaining. See how many rival cars you can pass. You have 10 laps, which means you'll have plenty of passing opportunities, so take your time and knock off the cars one at a time. On the final straight, make full use of the slipstream. If you can't get a following car off your back, block it by taking a clean line. Always keep an eye in your rearview mirror. Go for the gold by making use of all the techniques you've accumulated so far. The trophies will be awarded in the usual manner, with the winner receiving the gold, second place a silver, and third place bronze. Coming in 4th place or below will fail. Best of luck with the lesson.
So here we go. A 10-lap endurance event around Fuji Speedway, driving the BMW McLaren F1 GTR. A car which, in and of itself, as I've said before, is a racing legend. So, let's go. With 10 laps around Fuji Speedway. Starting in 6th place on the Fuji International Speedway, try to overtake as many cars as you can during 10 laps. Excuse me. This is a grueling race against skilled opponents, so carefully plan your overtaking moves. And before we get on with this, I need to go and fill my water back up because I might be needing it for this event. So, I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. I'm now ready to get on with the racing. 10 laps of Fuji Speedway in a BMW McLaren F1 GTR. After going and filling up my water. And immediate fail. Kind of what I was expecting. Oh well, let's try again. Am I really surprised to say that I failed immediately? Not really. I kind of knew that was coming. Because I did step away to get some water after all. So basically, the key to this event is more or less keeping your car on the track for 10 laps and meticulously planning your overtaking maneuvers whilst you do it. You will have plenty of time to catch up to the leaders, and since we are now in a race where there are 6 cars altogether, in comparison to the 4 opponents, including the player that we've had before. This basically is an endurance event, and you more or less have to keep your car on the track for 10 laps. Now this car, it will take a while to get used to, and it will probably take a few failed attempts to fully understand how the car handles and everything else about the car, but as long as you get a visceral understanding of just what this 600 horsepowered race car will more or less do, then I think once you get everything squared away, you should be alright. I'd say it'll probably take about 6, maybe 7 laps to catch up to your opponent if you're on the pace. And since I figure this is going to be relatively easy, I don't think I'm going to have too many problems catching up to the leaders. So I think I should be okay here, from what I know. Oh, I overshot the chicane just a little bit there, but I do manage to get it gathered back up on the exit. And now closing in on the Honda NSXR prototype LM race car. The first car I passed was the Mazda RX-8 concept LM race car. Part of the reason I know both of those by their makes and models is because I've raced and driven both cars before. I definitely prefer the RX-8 over the NSX personally, out of those two, but I still think both of them are pretty distinctive race cars in my opinion. It could also be because I've spent more time with the Mazda RX-8 race car than I have the Honda. So that could also be the case. It's not going to take me too long to catch up to the leader because I'm slowly but surely chipping away as I'm now closing in on the Fairlady Z LM race car, which is also known as the 350Z LM race car. The names are different depending on the region, and we are now 3 laps down. I don't think it's going to take me too long to catch up to the leader. It could take me a little bit more time, but either way, I more or less know what it is I'm doing here. I just need to continue setting hot laps and then I think we should be fine. I don't think you need to worry about the intervals too much because I have established that the pace of the Toyota GT1 that is leading this race will slowly but surely drop away. I don't think it's going to take me too long to catch up to him because I am keeping my McLaren under control for most of this lap. And I'm just chipping away the seconds as I go further and further along. A little bit of a lift there on entry to the final corner, and hopefully I should be able to catch up to the leader. Okay, it's more like 7, maybe 8 laps, possibly 9 laps before I catch up to the Toyota. But I am putting together the pace, and I'm also keeping the revs more or less where I want them to be, so I don't think it's going to be too much of an ask for me to overtake the Toyota GT1 once I've caught up to him. I'm continuing to chip away the seconds as I'm now closing in on the Nissan R390. I almost go off the track there, which would have meant failure if I did, but I just managed to hold on to it on the corner exit, and now I am just 16 seconds behind the Toyota GT1. So 5 laps in to the 10 lap endurance. I'm now under 16 seconds behind the Toyota GT1. And I am closing in on the Nissan R390 as we head through the hairpin, going through there at about 80 k's, and now through this flat out corner up to the chicane. A little bit of contact there on the entry, but able to gather it back up, and I get a little bit of a nudge there off the exit of the chicane, but I am keeping pace with the Toyota. And so we now have 4 laps to go, as I am just 11 seconds behind the Toyota GT1 now. So basically, you just have to be patient here. You just need to make sure that you're setting good consistent lap times, and then you should be able to catch up to the Toyota GT1 with almost no problems, as long as you stay on track. It may take a few attempts to get used to the McLaren and the way it drives, because it is a more powerful car than the GT500 cars. But once you get everything squared away, and you're eventually able to get everything ironed out with this car, you should be able to get through the endurance event almost no problem. And that's kind of what I'm doing here, because I have prior experience with the McLaren. Was a little bit hesitant there on that corner entry. I thought for sure I was going to lose it there, but thankfully I didn't. And now we just have 3 laps to go. I am 6.4 seconds behind the Toyota, so I will either catch him on this lap or the next lap. But right now, I can definitely say I am running bad fast with this car. And now the gap is 5.5 seconds. So I am closing in on the Toyota. And just maintaining my pace. I'm now just 3.7 seconds behind him. So it looks like it's going to be the next lap where I get past him. Unless I can absolutely nail the corner exit here at the chicane. I get a decent enough exit. I think I'm probably close enough now for a slipstream to get him on the next lap. And this is where I will really start to come into my own. As the gap is now down to less than a second, I'm in the slipstream, just hitting over 200 miles an hour. I'd say 326 is equivalent to about 203, maybe 204. I'd say it's probably 203 in miles per hour, and I'm right alongside the Toyota. He tries to go with the switchback, but I won't let him, because I was already alongside him at the left-hander. And now, I am 1.4 seconds clear of him. So from here on out, it's basically smooth sailing. As long as I can keep my car on the track, we should pretty much be fine. So I don't really need to push it now. I just need to make sure that I get my car to the finish, and then we should be fine. As I am now 3.1 seconds clear. Excuse me. Just having a sip of water, as I am now 4.6 seconds clear of the Toyota. So, I would estimate by the end of the lap I'm probably going to be at least 8 seconds clear of him by the time we get to the end of this run. As I am now already 5 seconds up. And it looks like it's going to be even bigger than that once we get to the end of this lap. As I am now closing in on the Mazda RX-8 to overlap him. I'm now 6.8 seconds clear. Getting a little bit of a slipstream as I overlap him. And so far so good. Now, heading through the final corner onto the front stretch, and I am basically going to be 10 seconds clear by the time we're done here. But there we go, easy win in the Fuji 10-lap endurance, as I finished that race in 13 minutes and 15 seconds. And can I see the gap at the end? What's it gonna be? 19.6 seconds. That is extraordinary, if I do say so myself. I can definitely say that was domination. But there we go. The 10-lap endurance has been easily won by me. And now, I think I'm going to call it a day before getting on with the last test for this part of the, for getting on with the final test in this part of the endurance. I'll probably end that off with the coffee break, but either way, we have now done 35 tests, and we still have another 6 tests to go. So, that'll do it for this part of the video, and I will now move you on to the next day part of the video. The next day. Well, here we are. We have just one lesson and our 4th and final coffee break to go for the rest of the episode. So, let's get on with our fuel conserving time trial, where if we want to get the gold, we need to be setting a minimum time of 1 minute 32. Use as little petrol as possible using the Prius hybrid car, or Prius. I don't know which one is more commonly used. But anyway, 132 for a gold, 140 for a silver, and 1 minute 50 for a 1 minute 50 for a bronze. Let's get going, and now I pass you over to Vicky.
Welcome to lesson 36. This lesson is a bit unusual. Your training car is a Toyota Prius hybrid car, which you'll use to complete a time trial using the least petrol possible. good fuel mileage and speed are often contradictory, so it's hard to achieve both. The idea will be to aim for the best balance of the two. Take one lap around Tsukuba circuit as fast as you can while maintaining the minimum mileage as shown on the on-screen indicator. The Prius utilises both a fuel engine and an electric motor. The diagram on the lower left shows the status of that hybrid system. When you use engine braking without accelerating and with weaker braking, the Prius recharges the battery from this braking force. For this energy-efficient time trial, you'll use the instantaneous mileage and consumed fuel meters shown on the lower right of the screen. If you accelerate too hard, you'll notice the mileage indicator drop like a stone. So the trick to driving in an energy-efficient manner is to go easy on the accelerator and to avoid hard braking. The mileage displayed is current as to that point, so it's okay to go below the target mileage temporarily. The idea is to choose the stretches of the course where mileage takes priority, and the spots where there's a need for speed. Best of luck in this lesson.
So basically, we have now switched from doing a 10-lap race car endurance, and basically we are now doing a time trial that is based on fuel conservation. And we're basically just trying to make sure that we can pretty much be fast, but also as fuel efficient as we possibly can be. And I do more or less know what it is we need to do here. So the target number we need to hit here is about 10 miles. Sorry, is about an average of using 10 litres of fuel. I think that's what we need to hit. 10 litres of fuel or lower, that's what we need in order to pass. Drive the Tsukuba circuit using the Toyota Prius hybrid car. Try to achieve a fast time using just 1 litre of petrol per 10 kilometers. Pay careful attention to the mileage and fuel meters on the bottom right of the screen. Okay, let's go. So we're doing 1 lap of Tsukuba circuit, and basically we need to get our fuel mileage down to about 10 kilometers in order for us to succeed with this. Well, at least I pass. Okay, let's try again. I've got 1.5 seconds to make up. Let's try this again. You don't really need to rev it on the start, because from what I now know at least, it doesn't really matter because, well, since the car itself is a hybrid, you're not able to really see the rev counter here. You're basically just focusing on your fuel number, as well as also, in some cases, your hybrid number. You do have to feather the throttle through some of these corners. And to those of you who are used to using the analog stick like me, you will know of course that the idea is basically to conserve using the throttle in the areas where you need to, but you also need to make sure that you're not overdoing it in the process. Can I get this down to 10 litres? Yes, I can. And second time around, I get the gold by 1.4 seconds. Nice. Now, we just have the coffee break to go. But there we go. Gold second try, baby! In the Toyota Prius. And since this is a new day, I have to check and see if my replay is saved. Yes, it is. Alrighty. Let's now move on to the car unlock scene, for which we get the Toyota Prius hatchback Toyota hybrid Synergy Drive. That is quite a word piece and a half to describe this full model. Well, describe the full name of this model. Anyways, one task to go, and that is the coffee break. Oh boy, I don't feel confident about this one, at least not for my first few attempts. Carefully maneuver your car through the cones. This one is pretty much a maze. But anyway, let's get through it.
Now for the last coffee break. This stage now wraps up the challenge level with extremely narrow turns and demands skilled use of brake and accelerator, coupled with awareness of the width of your vehicle. This time the challenge is reaching the goal area without touching any of the cones. If you do, you'll be disqualified instantly. During the challenge, you'll encounter a series of tight 90-degree turns and a section where you'll have to reverse your car. To assist you in this, make use of the R1 button to change to an external view, and then use the L1 button to change to the rear view. Enjoy your coffee break.
So basically what Vicky said there was we need to switch over to the overhead view in order for us to realistically maneuver our way through the cones without touching them. Well, this is going to be a tricky one, but hopefully once I get used to the rhythm, this will not be too hard for me to beat. This is the last coffee break. This is a very tricky course, especially as you must reach the goal without making even the slightest contact with any of the cones. When you reverse the car, try using the rear view. So, 40 seconds is the gold time, 50 seconds the silver, and there are no time limits. We just need to make sure we squeeze through the maze without touching any of the cones. That is way easier said than done, if I do say so myself. Okay, let's go. Time for what will probably be the hardest challenge in this game. Because I not only have to be quick, and immediate fail. Can't say I'm surprised, in all honesty. Well, we got there eventually. Still, I gotta say, this Gymkhana course, it is an absolute bitch. There's no other way to describe it. It's an absolute bitch. And you've basically got to be millimeter perfect to actually get past this, let alone score a gold. That is just how... That is just how acrimonious I think this task can get. And it is fair to say that... because you just have to be so millimeter inches perfect to get through it, that you basically have to give yourself some sim racing wizardry to get through this. But nonetheless, that's what I did. I did get a bit frustrated at it, and it is fair to say that it certainly took me long enough to get there. But at least I managed to give myself enough motivation to eventually get the gold, regardless of just how arduous it was for me to physically work my way through that maze. And under the circumstances, it basically was a maze. But anyway, there we go. So that is now part 2 of the purple section done. And now we just have one final bit of school mode to go, and then we'll be done. I'm also so glad that Gymkhana test is now done, because you basically have to not even touch the cones to get past it. That's just how overwhelmingly hellacious it really is to just get the gold. You really have got to be millimeter perfect, and I'm not the only one who thinks this. But either way, there we go. And now we just have 5 tests to go, and each of them are time attacks. So, next time on Gran Turismo 4 Prologue, Purple Section Part 3.